Hi everyone, it's Jerry. This is video 12 from the Beginner to Chess Master playlist, which is a progressive series of videos. And this is an introduction to chess thinking. The questions you ask of yourself when playing a game, maybe you're not asking yourself any questions when playing, but you should. The questions you ask of yourself when playing are more important, in my opinion, than having the correct answers to the questions. Having good answers to the questions is something that will develop. You'll improve upon this. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to blunder. You're going to fall down in chess games. And you're going to rebound. You're going to get back up. That's part of the learning process. You're going to make mistakes. Having the correct answers, you're going to improve on those answers with time, with experience. We want to make certain that we at the very least ask of ourselves the correct questions. What I'm trying to do in this video is help build a foundation for you, a structured way to think. I'm just scratching the surface here, but having a structured way to think through a chess game. What questions to ask of yourself when your opponent makes a move? What are you thinking about when you're considering a move on your own, for your side of the board? You're thinking about moving move X. Do you have a good reason behind it? What's purpose does it serve? Okay, we're going to have a look at several examples here, 5 examples in a quick game at the end. This one being the first. And I imagine if you're here watching this video right now, you're looking to improve your game. I'd encourage you to follow along with these little pop quizzes and pause the video when I say pause the video. But yeah, these little pop quizzes, I think devoting some attention here to really trying to focus and answer the questions I'm throwing at you, I think will improve your game here. I think it will be, let's say, time well spent. Okay, here's the first one. First example. The last move here is E4. My question to you is, what are you thinking about when that move is played? If you'd like to, go ahead, pause the video, see what you can come up with. What is it that you are thinking about when that move is played? Okay, E4. Let me say that the first question you ought to ask of yourself when a move is played is, what is the move doing? Some of you may already be asking yourself that question. That's great. There might be something similar, like what is the threat? That's another popular one. There might not always be a threat. That's one of the reasons why I prefer what is the move doing. Let's have a look. Let's try and answer that question. And we're not always going to be able, again, to come up with the correct answers or all answers, but that is a question you should be asking of yourself when your opponent makes a move. You can't just be so fixated on what it is you want to do. You need to focus. You need to give some consideration to what it is your opponent's move is doing. So let's see. What is the move E4 doing? What might be some reasons behind it? Well, let's see. If you said it opens the door for the bishop, great. We know this is a very good thing in the beginning to get our pieces developed out and about. Great. Additionally, it's controlling D5 and F5. If you referenced that as well, great. Is that as far as you went? Did you just say to yourself, opens the door for the bishop, controls these 2 squares, and that was it? That was the end of your thinking? I'd like to suggest an additional question to be asking of yourself when a move is played. Not only should you ask, what is the move doing, but also ask of yourself, what is the move no longer doing? Well, in order to answer that question, we have to compare and contrast. Now, I know this is tedious work here. I'm showing one move, and I'm spending a lot of attention here to answering a couple questions. But these questions they apply in every position of every game. This is something that you need to rehearse, and I should also mention that, with the popularity online of blitz chess and bullet chess and the excitement that that brings, it's very tempting to want to play those time controls. It's a lot of fun, but if you're looking to improve, I would encourage much slower time controls where you could really focus on this train of thought, having this frame of mind, asking yourself these questions and trying to be as proficient as possible when you're playing. Having this structured way of thinking is important. What is the move doing? As mentioned, boom, boom, boom. What is it no longer doing? We need to compare and contrast. What was it doing on E2 that it no longer is doing when it's on E4? Let's see. From E2, it was controlling D3 and F3. It can no longer control these squares. That's another thing we could say with this E4 move. Additionally, it can no longer control these two squares either. The only way it was able to do that is if it played to E3, but it lost its right to do that as well. 4 squares we can say are weakened. I should mention that with each move in a chess game, there is a strength, there is a likely strength and weakness behind it. Some new squares will be controlled or attacked. Some new squares will be weakened. This is evidenced by the move E4. Pawn moves in particular will always create some weakness. They'll no longer, just due to their nature, just to the rules of the pawn, just by the rules of the pawns, they continue to move forward. They can only move forward. So there's going to be weaknesses. They can never return. He can't go in reverse. D3, F3 are weakened. D4, F4 are weakened. Okay? So what is it doing? Controlling these 2 squares, opening a door for the bishop. What is it no longer doing? Controlling these 4 squares. There's a lot we can say about a move in a chess game, and we're not even at the point of considering what we want to do. We're just gathering some information here. Knowing what weakness is attached with our opponent's move may be quite helpful to us. May help us to discover some interesting possibilities. Recognizing the weakness that is left behind, let's say, with each move that is played, we may be able to take advantage of this. We may be able to hit our opponent where they are now weakened. The D4 square is one for an experienced player. They would see this as like, their eyes would immediately light up. They see this as a wonderful place for a piece one day. Okay, but the main thing here is to ask those 2 questions. What is the move doing? What is the move no longer doing? We're going to have a look at some more examples here, still applying the same train of thought. This being the next, where Black's last move is knight e4. If you'd like to, go ahead, pause the video, see what you are now thinking about. Okay, let's have a look. What is it doing? What is it no longer doing? Some things to note. It's attacking the knight, attacking the pawn. He's within checking distance of the king. I'm only looking at these forward moves, but he's certainly doing some other things in reverse. So many things are happening with a piece moving, a knight. There's these 8 squares. He's in the center. A lot of possibilities, a lot of things to consider. I'd like to also mention, what is he no longer doing? Well, we need to compare and contrast. He's no longer controlling E8, guarding H7. No longer hits H5, G4, D7. Why am I drawing so much attention to these, this idea of what the move is no longer doing? Well, you may be missing opportunities. For example, on the white side, you may do a move like knight here, just moving the knight in a different position and not seeing a way to take advantage of a weakness behind Black's last move. This D7 square in particular, it's no longer controlling. A follow-up question, we're just gathering information here. A follow-up question when your opponent makes a move is there a way to take advantage of the weakness that has been left behind by my opponent's move. This is an example of, well, yes, you can, in this particular case, take advantage of the weakness that has been left behind. He's no longer there to control d7. We can, in fact, play knight to d7 with the fork. We're going to win some material. If we were not asking ourselves that question, maybe a move like this would be a bit more difficult to see. Okay? What is the move doing? What is the move no longer doing? Let's have a look at another example right here, where black's last move was to develop the bishop. What is it doing? What is it no longer doing? Attacks the knight. It develops. What is it no longer doing? These aren't the only things, but just kind of fast forwarding a little bit. What is it doing? Noting a couple things here. Attacking the knight. What is it no longer doing? It's no longer controlling b7. This may capture our attention, or should capture our attention, because follow-up moves of, let's say, bringing the queen out, developing with an attack, these start to be interesting possibilities. Not saying right away it's best. Maybe you do something like this, attack the bishop, and then make a move like this, but noticing the weakness that has been left behind, maybe that's a good way to react to your opponent's move. We need to ask, what is the move doing? What is the move no longer doing? The weakness that has been left behind. In this case, that b7 square is now weakened. Can we take advantage of this? This might be a way to do that. Let's have a look at another example where black's last move is d4. What is the move doing? Well, he's attacking the knight. What is the pawn no longer doing? Well, he's no longer controlling c4, e4. Additionally, there is, it's not just about what the pawn is doing. There's other things happening. This e4 square I said is weakened, but also it opens up now a new, it opens up something more for white. How might you, this is another important part here, how might you reply to your opponent's move? I've been sharing this question, what is the move doing? Suppose one of the moves your opponent makes is a threat. Where do you go from there? Suppose this is the situation you're in. Your opponent makes a move and there is a threat here, a threat to win some material. Pawn takes knight. How are you replying? How are you responding to situations like these, where you're under fire all of a sudden? Your opponent is throwing a threat at you. What runs through your mind? I think what you should do, or should be asking yourself, is, can I ignore the threat? Before how to react, think, should I react? Can I ignore it? Is this really so big a threat? Can I do something that's even stronger? Is maybe a better frame of mind to be in. Before you think about how to respond to your opponent's threats, maybe you should think, you know what, maybe there's a way. Maybe there's a way that I can throw an even stronger punch at my opponent. This is a pawn that's attacking a knight. Maybe there's a way that we can attack our opponent's king. There's a certain list that we can go through. The most forcing moves are the ones that threaten checkmate in one. The next would, let's say, be ones that simply deliver check to the enemy king, attacking the queen, attacking the rook. That type of progression is one that you can go through. They will likely be stronger, and it'll be your opponent who's probably having to react all of a sudden to your reply. In this case, your pawn, or your opponent's pawn, is attacking the knight here. Should you react? Is there a way that you could do something stronger? In this particular case, there is. Let's take note that this pawn is attacking the knight, but he's weakening these squares, and additionally, opening up a diagonal for the white queen. This is a terrible move, as it turns out, but if you're too fixated on reacting to your opponent's threats, you don't necessarily always have to do that. There may be something better, a stronger move you can throw back at your opponent. The move queen takes pawn is hitting black with the fork, and yeah, it's just big trouble here. You get the rook, and big problems for Team Black. White is winning here. So let's have a look at just a couple more examples here. Still playing off of this idea right here, which is to say, what is the move? What is the move doing? Okay, we see that it is attacking the knight. What is it no longer doing? It's no longer controlling these squares. Okay, in this particular case, there is a threat. You need to be very cautious now. In that previous example, I showed an instance where we can ignore our opponent's threat and come up with something stronger, something more forceful. You need to be careful here if you are going to ignore your opponent's threats. If you do a move like this, let's just say bishop to b4, this is an instance of you throwing a threat that really isn't a good one because of how white can reply. You need to be very delicate if you are going to ignore your opponent's threats, in other words, and generate a threat of your own. In this particular case, if you're inserting this check first, ignoring the threat on your knight, notice that in this particular case, white can reply to your threat of check by simply blocking and attacking what is now another piece. So all of a sudden, in a situation like this, where black thinks he could ignore this threat and instead insert this check, well, now there's two issues that black has to deal with, and some material will be lost on the next move. You can only save one of these two pieces in this particular case. So you need to be very delicate is what I'm getting at. It's still the correct frame of mind to be in, which is to say if you are under fire, if your opponent is generating a threat, you may be able to simply ignore it and generate an even stronger threat. So at least consider throwing a stronger threat back at your opponent before you react. Okay, you don't necessarily have to react. All right. As a close to this video, I'd like to show a quick game here, one that is under 20 moves, by the greatest attacking player, as well, many would have him pegged as the greatest attacking player, Mikhail Tal. He is playing on the white side against Salnikov. This is a short game, and here's how it played out. I want to get to this one particular position. Right here, f6. Okay, f6. Let's see. What is it doing? What is it no longer doing? These same questions. All right, well, we see that the e5 pawn is under fire. That is attacked. g5 is defended. The weakness that has been left behind with that last move, e6 and g6. We may also start to view it as, well, this opens a diagonal towards the enemy king. The reply that Tal comes up with is knight to g5. And let me first point out that this is not the best move, and in fact, as it turns out, it's a bad move. Black does not reply eventually well enough to this idea that Tal has with knight to g5, but I wanted to highlight at least this particular game, this particular move, knight g5, because if Tal was not asking of himself, what is the move no longer doing? A move like this really doesn't really enter your thought process. I mean, I could see so many players being fixated on the e5 square, and that's the first thing that really comes to mind. It came to mind for me, the pressure on this square, but again, devoting some attention to what the move is no longer doing is very important. It's weakening. Tal the attacking player Tal here, he sees the weakness, maybe even before he even sees the strength behind the enemy's last move, Black's last move here. He's trying to find a way to exploit the weakness that has been left behind. There are gaps. There's strength. Again, there's strengths and weaknesses with your opponent's moves. He's trying to capitalize on the weaknesses that have been left behind with Black's last move. The move knight g5 was played. The knight is taken. The queen comes out, delivers a check. Blocks, chop, chop. And this is where we now have a mistake by Black after the move bishop to h6. This is not a good move. A better move is to take here, but I want to just fast forward to this point here and go with what was played in the game. Bishop h6, bishop takes g5, bishop takes bishop, and now what would you do in this position as white? If you'd like to pause the video, see what you come up with. Okay, of course queen takes bishop, right? Because it takes a piece and delivers check. Not quite. The last note I want to make here is a famous quote by Emanuel Lasker: when you see a good move, look for a better one. This is very tempting to just want to take the bishop and then, do so and give check. But in this case, you can actually deliver a mate in one. King to e8 is the only move. And then knight d6 is checkmate. That's the last quick little tip. When you see a good move, it's a very common, I should say a very popular phrase by Emanuel Lasker. When you see a good move, look for a better one. I know I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you here, and this is supposed to be just an introduction. I have no idea how long it's been going, but having a structured way of thinking is most important. These two questions: what is the move doing? What is the move no longer doing? Know that with each move that is played, there will be a strength and weakness. When it's your turn to move, I know I've been applying it, I've been sharing examples where the opponent makes a move, but when you're considering one of your own moves, consider not only what it is doing, but what gaps you're maybe leaving behind. What weaknesses are you leaving behind that your opponent may be able to take advantage of? And one other thing, I know there may be the temptation to try and think many moves ahead in a chess game. I don't think that is so important. You really need to focus. It's going to sound a little bit weird, but you really need to focus on being proficient with thinking just one move ahead, with really identifying what the moves are doing. Don't try to get too ahead of yourself with calculating 2-3 moves. It's really a bit of a stretch. You really need to focus on being proficient with correctly identifying what the move is doing, what the move is no longer doing. Slow your thinking down. I suggest playing some slower time control games to really train this way of thinking, to really get you in this good frame of mind when playing. And this is, I think, an excellent start to you developing as a chess player. I think these are good tips, good questions to be asking of yourself. Common questions, but important questions to be rehearsing when you're playing in a chess game. So I'm going to wrap things up here like I normally do with saying I hope you got something out of this video. Feel free to leave any feedback in the comments section below, and we'll see what's in store in this series, this playlist with video 13. So that's all for now. Again, I hope you got something out of it. Take care. Bye.